7 South Carolina class was at that time 6th in the country and 4th in the SEC, which is amazing.
Wes Mitchell.
You know, I think if you're South Carolina, you're aiming to at least be at 50%. Then in theory, you're adding talent, you're getting better, you're putting yourself in a position to compete.
And Tyler Head.
It's been a great week for South Carolina. On the recruiting front, still certainly plenty to talk about.
On the home of the Gamecocks,
107.5
The Game.
And welcome into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris along with you here on 107.5 The Game. And what a weekend it was to be a Gamecocks fan as everything went right. You had baseball getting the series win over Clemson, the women's basketball team winning an SEC tournament once again. Men's basketball team even won on Saturday, wrapping up the regular season. And somebody on the Firehouse Subs text line said even ice hockey won against Clemson on Friday night. So an all-time weekend from a Gamecocks front.
Tyler, you did leave out softball.
Oh, sorry about that. Softball.
The weekend sweep and run ruled UNCW.
All right, so softball too. Sorry about that.
No, there's probably others.
There was so much happening. It's hard to keep up with all.
Yeah,
of it.
you didn't forget cock hockey.
No, I did not.
Which I like those guys on Twitter.
That's
man.
a good one. Very
They're
entertaining
great on Twitter. But yeah, softball won too. You know, it's hard to pull off the sweep.
Yeah.
Like, even when you have a great weekend, it feels like there's maybe always one that kind of, I don't know, screws everything up. But, you know, in the case of South Carolina, beating Clemson, not just in baseball, and after the way the series start, you're looking at this thing, like Carolina did not play a good game at all on Friday.
Yeah.
Like, let's just call it what it is. Did not respond well, I guess, to maybe being on the road for the first time. Great crowd, great atmosphere. They just didn't play well. It wasn't just they got beat. They didn't play well.
Yeah, didn't get any extra base hits on Friday.
Saturday, about half of that game, you're sitting there saying Clemson is about to be up 2-0 in this series. And then, you saw them come through. Like, I think we've seen them, have clutch moments. But let's be honest, to me, sometimes you have clutch moments just because you are better than your opponent. And most of the teams, probably all the teams they had played so far, they're just better. They're just more talented than. So Clemson, for South Carolina to go out there, to be in Greenville, to be on, neutral site, you're playing on kind of a big stage, and to come through with some big hits, to hit some bombs. You could see the energy just erupt from that dugout. When they got those big hits late in game 2, and then they really, it felt like they just carried that momentum into Sunday. I mean, that was kind of like a workman type effort from them on Sunday. The game, it was close for the first few innings, but really, to me, it felt like South Carolina was in control. They had so many hard hit balls and balls that were just short of going out in the first place. I kind of felt like Clemson was living dangerously for that entire game. And then Carolina kind of came through. If the wind was blowing out, then Carolina might have beat them by 15.
Yeah, there was a stretch there, kind of mid game, where it was batting practice. It was like Clemson was throwing a beach ball that traveled farther than a beach ball could. Because how many were there guys that were right at the fence or warning track? 3, 4?
I remember
probably?
At least 3 off the top of my head. By the way, shameless plug. We've got Gavin Cassis in on Thursday.
Okay, awesome.
Garnet Trust Hour, and he had 2 bombs.
Yes,
that he did
yesterday. So we, we're batting very well on guys. We had James Hicks right after his return to action, pitched very well. And James Hicks.
And then after that, look at what he's done.
Hicks masterful through 4 innings
amazing
yesterday. Yeah.
Can we take just a minute? We got to get back to the bigger picture, baseball and everything else happened this weekend.
He didn't throw the cutter, I'm guessing.
We can ask him. I think he left. He still got the cutter shelved. But let me give some context on James Hicks, how good he's been.
Okay.
All right. So he has been, statistically, I had to look up. I'm like, he probably has one of the highest whips in the country. when you look at that metric, walks and hits per innings pitched, lowest, I should say, one of the highest.
One of the best ones.
One of the best is the best word. Thank you, Wes. And indeed, he does. He is 10th in the country in that metric and 3rd in the SEC right now. Whip for James Hicks, 0.57. And he's also pitched more innings than the number 1 in the country, which is Darren Williams from Kentucky. He's pitched 11 innings, has a 0.18 whip. But he's been fantastic. Just eye test, right? I mean, you look at yesterday, Eric Bakich, Clemson's coach, talked about it. He brought up Hicks kind of unprompted more than once and talked about the run on his fastball and just how good Hicks was. He basically just shut Clemson down. When you look at what he's done, trying to pull up some of my statistics now. All right, here we go. So James Hicks, I mean, he's 3-0. He's pitched in 4 games, 14 total innings. He's given up just 4 hits, no extra base hits at all, no doubles, no triples, no homers. He's given up no runs. Like I said, no homers. He's walked just 4 batters overall, and he struck out 14. So he's been completely dominant when he's come in the game. He's got, a couple starts. He's got a couple appearances in relief. I know Wes and I watched the game together yesterday, and I looked over and said, I feel like we're going to see some James Hicks today. And he came in and just completely slammed the door on Clemson.
I think we're kind of seeing this team starting to be, at least pitching wise on paper, they kind of are what we thought they were. We thought there'd be more depth. I think they're still figuring out the order and the proper use and who's going to be long relief and who's going to close. And, I think you're looking not that anybody's necessarily done anything to possibly lose any weekend jobs, but the great thing about it right now is that you have some guys who I think are kind of pushing to where you would, if somebody had to slot in there, on Sunday potentially, then you would feel good about some of these other guys stepping in there. But I think what you're seeing is not, there were times last year it really felt Carolina, but you want to be able to make a decision on whether to pull a pitcher or leave him in based on the merits of the exact situation, and not feel like you have to leave a pitcher in by default because you just don't have enough length in your bullpen. And I thought last year there were a lot of times where Carolina was having to make decisions based too much on like the overall status of their depth or lack thereof. Whereas this year, I think you're going to be in a much better situation. Mahoney was good, but he did get in some trouble along the way. And then you felt good just saying, all right, he's done his part. Let's get this thing to Hicks. And then Hicks was so good that you were like, all right, we're just going to ride this guy.
Yeah, and I think we'd all agree they have a solid rotation of 5 different starters. This being the last week that you're going to play 2 midseason games, playing against Citadel, and then sure they play on Wednesday. They play Upstate on Wednesday. So this is the last week you have to deal with the 2 midweek games. We've seen both Hicks and Jerzenbeck come in relief roles. So as you get into conference play the following weekend, where you're going on the road, taking on Georgia, you can kind of figure out where you want to slot those guys in if you want to use them on the weekend, and then maybe have one of them for that usual midweek game as well. But we knew this team was going to be really good from the pitching standpoint. Heard a lot of people going into the season giving them the praise of being an Omaha level pitching staff. We just needed the offense to match that, and through the first 12 games of the season, so far so good.
The pitching staff even is a little bit more shorthanded than we anticipated, right? A couple of the transfers, Ricky Williams from Clemson, Roman Kimbrell, who probably would have given them a good bit in some form or fashion. The Notre Dame transfer, neither of them able to go, but fortunately they have, guys with experience from last season. Some of them, probably thrown into the fire a little bit more than you anticipated last year because of those injuries. They'd been able to stay healthy. And here's another thing I keep going back to. I don't think Kingston said it after this weekend, but he said it more than once leading up to this past weekend. And that is, he doesn't feel like he's seen the best. We've seen the best from this pitching staff. Specifically, I think he mentioned Will Sanders and James Hicks, because Hicks has had that long layoff, because Sanders didn't pitch as much as some of his colleagues, whether it's teammates or other guys around the league, like in the summer. He's not where Kingston thinks he will be, where Justin Parker thinks he will be. And certainly when you look at kind of how guys have performed so far, I mean, Hicks has been lights out, whether it's been starting role or coming out of the pen. Noah Hall, aside from basically that one inning against Clemson, has been outstanding, super competitive. He can go deep in games for you. Will Sanders is the one that I think you can point to that really hasn't been himself so far, but we know the kind of talent that he has. So if he can continue to come along, he's still your Friday night starter.
Yeah.
If he can come along and if he can hit his stride, then you've got a chance to be really, really dangerous there.
And that's what these non-conference series are for, to start out the season for a couple weeks before you get into conference play, work those bugs out, kind of figure out where you want to put guys before you get into the meat of the games that really matter. Again, starting not this weekend, but next weekend against Georgia. But overall, as a whole, and Coach Kingston, I actually want to play a cut for you guys because Coach Kingston, was asked about the loss on Friday, and he kind of shrugged it off a little bit, saying, hey, you're going to lose games. That's just how baseball goes. And he was kind of re-asked the question after yesterday's win on Sunday after taking the series. And here's what he had to say about the confidence he has in this team as a whole.
I really do. I was asked the question in this venue a few days ago, what's changed over the years. And I've decided that I'm going to try to do everything I can to, number one, enjoy this rivalry this weekend. But as a coach, I need to do that more than I have. I'm getting to the age now where I need to enjoy what I get to do. And I'm trying to do that in terms of the relationships with our players. I'm trying not to make it life and death like it can feel sometimes. And yeah, I think but that being said, it's also a confidence in the ball club we have that we can bounce back and that we would bounce back.
And again, while you're still maybe trying to figure out the exact specifics of what the rotation, what the lineup's going to be, you overall have the confidence that you've got a really good team no matter where you put these guys.
Well, I think we knew on paper this team was going to pitch, and I don't think on paper we thought they were going to hit the way they have, and I still think there's going to be some questions there when you get into SEC play and you're facing elite pitching. Most of the time, probably 2 of the 3 starters that you're going to face, as good as the SEC is, are going to be pretty elite guys. So, the numbers are still going to come way down. But I thought what we saw, obviously Saturday and Sunday, some guys kind of coming out of their shells a little bit, some guys who haven't yet maybe done it at this level, but are really coming into their own. There's a lot of guys in this lineup that if you go back and look, were very highly regarded, by Perfect Game and by the different baseball recruiting ranking services. And so I think we're kind of starting to see that, and we're starting to see, leaders take hold. We're starting to see different guys at different spots in the lineup take hold. And that's really, when you schedule it the way they have, other than Clemson, kind of what teams you should beat, it really gives you an opportunity, I think, to go in there and kind of give guys a chance to earn their spots or hold on to their spots. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing.
Before we go to break, guys, guess what today is?
Well, I know it's Meatball Monday.
That's exactly where I was going. Meatball Monday. Celebrate the big weekend. If you're hungry, which I am, really hungry, actually, Wes, going over to your local Firehouse Subs, 14 different locations throughout the Midlands. If you're around us here on the studio downtown, just shoot on over to Main Street. If not, I'm sure there's one right around you from here to Sumter to Orangeburg. FirehouseSubs.com is where you can go and use the Rapid Rescue to order. That's where you can order online. You can customize your Firehouse Sub if you want. Get the best deal, which is $5.99 for a small, $7.99 for a medium. There's a sub of the day for every day. Today is, of course, Meatball Monday. If you want to add a little twist, you can still get the deal, but you can get it Wes's way. Add pepperoni. That's going to be a thing here soon. You can go into those any Firehouse Subs. Soon, I think you'll be able to ask for it Wes's way, and they'll slap some pepperoni on there for you. So check them out, FirehouseSubs.com, the Rapid Rescue, or download the Firehouse Subs app.
So a couple Gamecocks that are very familiar with this rivalry at Clemson had a little bit of fun with it on social media after the game. We'll talk about that on the other side. You're listening to the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, 107.5 The Game.
1075 The Game On Demand podcast menu.
Sponsored by Lexington Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
If you're dealing with injuries or pain, our team is here to get you better sooner.
On the home of the Gamecocks, 1075 The Game.
This is Damon Amendolara with your CBS Sports Minute. Jaws dropped over the weekend after Anthony Richardson's combine, but he's a huge risk. He's been a starting quarterback for only one season in college. He had more 100-yard passing games than 300-yard ones last year. He makes plenty of head-scratching throws. He's dynamic, but you better have patience. This is Damon Amendolara.
It's not easy being the one everyone counts on to keep your operation running, no matter the weather or supply chain hiccup. But we get you, Raymond in Buffalo, Maria in Miami, and Jules in Troy, taking control of everything that's under your control. At Grainger, we're here for you with high-quality supplies for every industry, plus real-time product availability and access to experts ready to help. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
O'Reilly. Protect your engine against sludge and wear with a synthetic oil change. O'Reilly Auto Parts has 5 quarts of Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil for $35.95. Plus, get 2 times O Rewards points. Our professional parts people can recommend the supplies you need.
Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor about your symptoms. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
It's game day at Jim's house, and the spread is impressive.
Mike's already done some damage with the hot wings, and now he's dropping back and going deep for another slice of pizza.
I sure hope he brought the Pepto.
Mike knows the Pepto-Bismol provides fast 5-symptom relief from unexpected stomach upsets. He's no rookie.
The way he's throwing back those nachos, he's the GOAT.
Be ready for game day with Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Josh, quote, "After walking around my whole life being a mouth breather, I was excited to try Navage. I read the directions carefully, pressed the button, and oh my gosh, what a sensation. So much mucus, so much crud, but oh sweet, merciful air, I can finally breathe you through my nose. Never have I ever taken such an amazing breath in my life. This is a life changer," unquote. He's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
United Way of the Midlands is hosting its inaugural Books and Brackets College Basketball Challenge. For as little as a $10 donation, you'll play for good and feel good, knowing proceeds support childhood literacy through the Midlands Reading Consortium and the Asia Wilson Foundation. Grand prizes include a Rolex watch or a 2023 Buick Envision, and other prizes ranging from a Dell laptop to a number of gift cards. Submit your bracket today at uway.org/BNB. It's the United Way Books and Brackets Basketball Challenge.
We get tested regularly to know our HIV status. Teenagers and adults can get tested at least once a year as part of routine health care. People at higher risk for HIV should get tested each year. HIV testing is confidential and convenient. If you are at risk for HIV, ask your healthcare provider for HIV testing or schedule an appointment. Call 1-855-472-3432 to schedule an appointment today.
Sponsored by SCD Heck.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 1075 The Game.
Discover Herndon Certified, Herndon Chevrolet's premier used car warranty Shop with complete confidence knowing Herndon Chevrolet has got you covered.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour.
Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks.
107.5 The Game.
Welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Obviously, South Carolina and Clemson, a very heated rivalry no matter which way you're looking at it. And there are three guys on the South Carolina baseball team that know both sides of it very well, that being Jonathan French, Dylan Brewer, and Ricky Williams, who transferred in from Clemson for this season. And after yesterday's win, I don't know if you guys saw this on Instagram, Jonathan French put out a picture on Twitter of all three of these guys in the dugout, saying the grass is indeed greener, talking about the Gamecocks getting the series win. So glad to see these guys are leaning into the South Carolina angle of this now.
Shots fired, man. I mean, Brewer got booed out of his shoes at Clemson on Friday. So there was no love lost there. I'm sure this one felt really, really good, for him. And, Carolina, obviously this rivalry, means a lot in football, but there's a lot of national rivalries in football. And, I think in basketball, it doesn't really quite have the same feel to it. But for baseball, I think for as long as I've been alive, this has easily been one of the best national rivalries out there because both programs have had so much success over the years. So I thought this weekend lived up to it. And now you have guys, you have some weird connection here, guys that have played at Clemson that are now, at South Carolina. You got Monty Lee, who obviously was the head coach there. But yeah, the Clemson crowd was giving it to him on Friday. I got a feeling maybe that Instagram post doesn't happen if he didn't receive such a not so warm welcome back home on Friday.
Yeah, Dylan Brewer had himself a hit yesterday as well, a double late in the game, and had a few antics. I think he was like pointing to the helmet logo and laughing about it or something. It was pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, Clemson fans, a little upset about it. They're dropping some comments, in there. Ricky Williams didn't get, we mentioned earlier, he didn't get a chance because he's injured this year. French, I don't think, saw any at-bats, but Dylan Brewer had an impact. French is a guy that has played for this Gamecocks team and will continue to make an impact, just not this past weekend. So some good additions. And, hey, that's what it's about. Eric Bakich, Clemson's coach, he mentioned going into the series, like, this is two teams that really, they don't like each other, and that's the way it's supposed to be. So that's a good thing. And there was certainly some jawing back and forth this weekend. I remember after Cole Messina hit that ball completely, just, I think, broke a window in that building that was above the Green Monster in left field, and had some fun with it. And I remember I saw the one angle and one of Clemson's guys in the dugouts yelling at him to run instead of having a little
the
fun.
home run trot.
Yeah, it was a trot. It took him a while to start, but that's what it's about.
Well, and Cole Messina, obviously not a former Clemson player, but he was getting booed like crazy. I guess just because he said he got hit by that one pitch and they thought he didn't, but dude was getting booed like crazy on Friday.
Yeah.
And then that had to mean a little bit more for him. And you could that was an epic bat flip and response to hitting that ball, which is still floating around somewhere with Elon Musk's satellites up there, I think. That thing was absolutely smashed and helped put the exclamation point on it. And it ended up being needed because Clemson did answer back, in their half of the ninth. But, guys, this is the first time. Chris and I already talked about this, so he knows the answer. But the last time South Carolina beat Clemson in what I guess – and see, I was struggling to figure out what you officially call it. I know what fans unofficially call it, but I would say first time in the big three men's sports, or really you can say the first time for South Carolina, the big four, which would be obviously South Carolina football, South Carolina men's and women's basketball, and then winning the baseball series. Do you know, Tyler, when the last time that happened was?
Colin and I talked about this. It would have
Okay.
been the 2011-2012 calendar year.
Yes.
For sports.
How much did y'all go into this?
Not super deep.
Okay, because I got some thoughts. I love to give people the context. So Barack Obama was still president,
right,
when that happened.
First term.
So popular movies in 2012 included The Avengers, the first one.
Yes.
The very first Avengers. Skyfall, The Dark Knight Rises.
Good one.
The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
21 Jump Street.
Classic.
Came out in 2012. Some app was growing in popularity called Instagram. Blockbuster still existed.
Okay.
Even though there weren't many of them. And from a South Carolina perspective, Dawn Staley had not yet won an SEC championship at South Carolina. Frank Martin was not yet South Carolina's men's basketball coach, and some guy named Malik Cook was South Carolina's leading scorer. Markeisha Grant was women's basketball leading scorer. Ray Tanner was still coaching baseball at South Carolina. And not only had Steve Spurrier was South Carolina's football coach, not only had he not made that comment of I'll be retiring in 2 to 3 years yet, but he had only won one of what would eventually be the 3 famous 11-win seasons for South Carolina.
Wow.
So,
and we were still Clowney's hit hadn't even happened yet by that point, because that was January of 13.
Yeah, the hit did not exist yet.
Wow.
Man,
I was a sophomore in high school at this point in time.
That was a long time ago.
Yes.
I'd only been doing this job like full time, like 2 years.
Gives you some perspective. If you, so let's see. That was, what, 11 years ago?
Yeah, 11 years ago.
What grade are you in if you're 11 years old?
So we were actually talking about this. I think we figured out Jerzenbeck would have been in like 2nd or 3rd grade at this point in time.
Yeah,
if you're a true freshman at 18 years old, that'd make you like 7. So yeah, like 2nd or 3rd grade. That's crazy.
Yeah, so if you're, by the way, we have our Firehouse Subs text line. Give us 446100 with 803 area code. This is the best Gamecock weekend since when? That's what I want to know, because again, everything was coming up aces for you, but it really, I feel like it was a great year in the Palmetto Series for South Carolina, regardless of this, to finally beat Clemson in football. The men's basketball win is, looking back, an incredible.
In hindsight, very impressive.
Incredible win.
Clemson's done in their conference play.
Yeah, but to add the baseball win on top of it, that pretty special stuff.
Absolutely.
I think when you kind of pit this against the last time it actually happened, 2011. I mean, you could maybe make an argument either way of which is better. I think that, you think back to the baseball team, for instance. I mean, that baseball team had lost the year prior to Clemson in the series. And in fact, in the regular season series, because again, they played them again later that year. And game 3 of that series, they lost 19-6 in Columbia. They come back, they play Clemson in the NCAA tournament, knock them out, go on and win the national championship. The 2011 team beats Clemson in the regular season, go on and win another national championship. And then you think about the football program, like Wes said, the first of those Spurrier 11-win seasons, you are by that point continuing a Clemson streak. This year, South Carolina starts a Clemson streak, but I feel like this one was much more cathartic probably than back then, right? Because you got swept last year in baseball, come back, you win it this year, and the fashion in which you did it. The basketball program, I don't know if any of us were picking South Carolina to win that game at home. Didn't really know about Clemson, how good they'd be. They've turned out to be a pretty darn good team this year. And like you said, Tyler, in hindsight, pretty quality win there. But that was a nice one. And then you look at football and all those things. I mean, you knock Clemson out of the playoff. you break the streak. 40 straight wins for Clemson at home, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like this was probably, it should be rather, one of the sweetest in quite a while.
Absolutely. Again, let us know on the Firehouse Subs text line, 803-404-6100. This past weekend was the best weekend for South Carolina since when? And we'll answer some of those as the show goes along. Speaking of winning, though, the women's basketball team continued to do that over the weekend. Talk about that next. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs.
The 107.5 The Game Spring Golf Classic is coming Friday, March 24th at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia.
Call Charwood at 803-755-2000 to register.
It's $100 a person, $400 a team. We'll have autographed gear from Gamecock athletes, and one person will win season tickets to all remaining USC baseball games.
Lunch provided by Firehouse Subs.
The 107.5 The Game Spring Classic, Friday, March 24th.
Call Charwood at 803-755-2000 to register.
From your home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
What's for dinner? Burgers?
After last week, no thanks.
Avoiding foods due to fear of diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools? It may not be just stomach issues. It could be EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. EPI can cause uncomfortable symptoms because it's a condition where the pancreas doesn't release enough digestive enzymes to break down food. But EPI can be managed. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor about your symptoms. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
It's game day at Jim's house, and the spread is impressive.
Mike's already done some damage with the hot wings, and now he's dropping back and going deep for another slice of pizza.
I sure hope he brought the Pepto.
Mike knows that Pepto-Bismol provides fast 5-symptom relief from unexpected stomach upsets. He's no rookie.
The way he's throwing back those nachos, he's the GOAT.
Be ready for game day with Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
No one likes to talk about the injuries, pain, disability, and lost loved ones that result from terrible car and tractor-trailer accidents. I'm Jason Reynolds. At the Samuels Reynolds Law Firm, we're honored to be the lawyers our clients rely on during their toughest moments.
And I'm Stephen Samuels. When work injury disrupts your life, I work hard to get you the medical treatment and workers' compensation you depend on.
Samuels Reynolds. True injuries, true lawyers. 803-779-4000.
Progressive presents an ad from Mom.
Hello? Is it on? Oh, okay. Bundle your home and auto insurance with Progressive and get protection round the clock. Round the clock? Does this generation even understand what round the clock means? But I'm just saying, because don't come to me when they ask to do this over, because the kids won't get it.
Get round-the-clock protection when you bundle and save with Progressive. It's easier than getting your mom to make this radio ad. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations.
Wendy's home-style French toast sticks are so delicious, some are saying that they're better than their mom's breakfast.
Excuse me. Did you just say Wendy's French toast sticks are better than my breakfast?
Mom, is that you?
Answer the question.
I said some people are saying that because they're so crispy on the outside and fluffy on the inside and perfect in every way.
Uh-huh. And what do you think?
I think it's time to tell people to choose wisely. Choose Wendy's sweet and crispy home-style French toast sticks.
That's still not an answer.
At participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
Uneven sidewalks, pool decks, or patios? Canty can repair them for just a fraction of the cost of replacement. Call Canty Foundation Specialists today for your free estimate.
Canty can fix it.
Uneven concrete can be a dangerous tripping hazard leading to injury. Call the experts at Canty to permanently repair your sinking or cracked concrete. Call 753-1495 or visit cantycanfixit.com. Canty can fix it. South Carolina Department of Corrections is hiring sergeants and lieutenants statewide. If you have correctional, security, military, or police experience, you can join SCDC as a sergeant or lieutenant. There's $7,500 sign-on bonuses, increased pay, and great employee benefits available. Start your new year off with a new career. Visit joinscdc.com to apply today or call 803-734-JOBS for more information.
Get ready to slam dunk those dirty carpets with Zerorez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning. As the madness of March approaches, it's time to get your home in order. Zerorez uses no harsh chemicals, leaving your carpets safe for your family and pets. Whether you're hosting a watch party or just need a refresh, the cleaning pros at Zerorez have you covered. Right now, mention me. Bill Gunner at 107.5 The Game, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet clean for $119. Book online, ZeroSColumbia.com.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour
With Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head.
on your home of the Gamecocks.
107.5 The Game.
No, winning championships, it never gets old because you have to. I mean, we often have to remind ourselves where we come from. Like we used to come to this tournament, and we're out in one day, and then the season was over. So it was just working towards getting to this place. And once we're here, we're going to enjoy it because there were a lot of times in which the season ended prematurely and on a sour note. On those days in which 12 to 15 years ago when we weren't competing for championships. And those weren't fun times, but there were times in which humbled you and allowed you to figure things out so you could have days like this to enjoy.
That was Gamecock women's head coach Dawn Staley talking about not getting tired of winning after yesterday's SEC tournament championship game where they dispatched of Tennessee 74-58 after running through Arkansas and Ole Miss in the earlier rounds. 32-0 on the season, now setting their sights to the NCAA tournament coming up at the end of next week. Well, they were able to notch one thing they didn't get last year, and that's the SEC tournament win as they continue to pursue another national championship.
Yeah, and I mean, you could tell this is important. Obviously, they are in a situation where they have greater goals for this year. And, you know, I thought Chris Wellbaum, who does a fantastic job of covering this team and program for us on GamecockCentral.com, did a fantastic job of just sort of framing that up. And, you know, Chris, I'm thinking we need to have Wellbaum on the show at some point during this run because, you know, he covers it very well and has covered it back to those times like Dawn Staley was talking about before they had won the SEC championship, before they won a national title. And, you know, the way he framed it up is, you know, South Carolina basically has a goal of 3 nets, and they don't cut down the nets for regular season SEC championship. So your 3 nets, you cut down the nets for SEC tournament title because it has a trophy, I guess. You cut down nets for Final Four appearance, and you cut down nets for the big one, which is a national title. So the goal, it just shows you how the goals have changed at South Carolina. You know, I imagine early on, the goal was be competitive and get yourself in a position to be able to compete. Now, the goal is, you know, championships with an S, and, you know, they have a chance to be, I mean, guys, undefeated. That is, in sports, very few teams have an opportunity to chase perfection. And if you are unbeaten, then, you know, by definition, you are perfect. It doesn't matter what happened along the way to get you there. And so they are chasing something very few teams have ever been able to do. And you can tell that matters to them. And I think a big reason for that is not just the talent. Look no further than this is just the latest example, but Aaliyah Boston giving her trophy from the tournament team to L.A., Letitia Me here, and telling her that she deserved it. Just yet another example of how closely connected these players are.
Yeah, and you look at what Dawn has done. I mean, I just kind of marvel at it, the consistency of the program. You know, she took over in 2008 for Susan Walvius. First year was a struggle. Weren't a lot of people in the stands. 10-18, 2-12 in conference play. Finished 11th in the SEC, but then the trajectory, you start ticking up. Next year, you still have a losing record overall and in conference. In 2010, you have a winning record overall, not in conference. Get to the WNIT, and then 2011 was the breakthrough year, right? You get 25 wins. You get 10 conference wins. You make the Sweet 16. After that year, after 2011, aside from one bump in the 2012 and 13 season, South Carolina made just the second round of the NCAA tournament. They've been Sweet 16 or better in every season since. And like Wes said, it is hard. I know we kind of oversay this probably. It is very hard to win every single game, particularly when you're playing a basketball game. You're playing 30 games or more in a season. It's incredibly difficult, to do that, especially with the target on your back, especially when, they've steamrolled a lot of teams, but they haven't steamrolled everybody. And they've played some really good teams and they've been behind, or they've not played their best basketball for a quarter or 3 quarters or 3.5 quarters, but they've continually answered the bell and been able to come back, been able to make a big play here and there, make a big shot here and there. The depth of this team, how well they're coached, and just the overall program, just extremely impressive.
I think something that I don't think I've ever just really thought of before, but she also did this before the transfer portal was a thing. If Dawn Staley took over South Carolina right now, she could have 5 transfers and, do this thing in a much quicker way. But back then, you're talking about 2008, 2009 season. You kind of had to build it up step by step by step. And that's exactly what she's done, to the point that, we've talked about this a ton, but to the point that literally they have a backup 5 that could beat a lot of teams, not all teams, but a lot of teams starting 5 right now. And I think if you're Carolina fans, if you're Dawn Staley, if this group, this is clearly what they're doing. They're trying to enjoy every moment. You're not trying to look ahead to the tournament. You're not trying to look ahead to, even next year and what is it going to look. Enjoy what you have right now. Enjoy this special thing that's going on, and really sort of just soak it all up.
Yeah. And Staley talked about that after the game. Similar to the men's, Selection Sunday is going to be coming up this Sunday. We'll find out the women's bracket at 8 o'clock on ESPN. So you're not looking at a first round game until either St. Patrick's Day or next Saturday on the 18th. So the players going to have a few days off for spring break. Staley's going to hit the road recruiting for a few days while they have that break. So yeah, definitely some time to soak it in a little bit.
By the way, guys, this is not only South Carolina women's basketball championship season or baseball season. This is integrated media season, Chris, because if you notice, a bunch of these games are all on streaming only. So if the whole streaming thing is a little bit out of your league, or just you have issues with that, call our friends at Integrated, 803-948-8327. That's also integratedmediainc.com. They specialize in smart home installation services here in the Midlands. And anything that involves, maybe getting your TV hung or making sure that your internet service is fast enough to stream all these games, they can handle that for you. So, of course, shout out to them for being a sponsor here on the show. And again, give them a call, 803-948-8327. They can help you with any of your smart home needs.
Come back on the other side, talk a little bit of men's basketball, wrapping up today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game.
Gotta take.
Hit us up on the Firehouse Subs text line.
Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen.
803-404-6100.
On your home of the Gamecocks.
107.5 The Game.
Attention job seekers. DHEC has collaborated with other state agencies to provide you with new and exciting career opportunities for you to explore. Join us for an in-person and virtual career fair on March 30th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Columbia Metropolitan Convention Center. Registration is encouraged, but walk-ins are welcome. Please visit scdhec.gov/careers to register for the career fair on March 30th at the Columbia Metropolitan Convention Center.
Join the McDaniels Automotive Group and the Lexington Medical Center Foundation on Saturday, April 22nd at the Pastides Alumni Center for the McDaniels Golf Classic Gala, featuring live and silent auctions, Southern Way catering, and live music by the Crystal Clear Band. Proceeds support programs and services at Lexington Medical Cancer Center, from diagnosis to survivorship. Purchase your tickets today at McDanielsGolfClassic.com.
Bill Gunner here for AAA Heating and Air. They were out at my house recently installing my brand new system, and I couldn't be more pleased with it. I'm telling you what, AAA Heating and Air, with their experienced professional technicians, I have taken care of my family, and they'll do the same for you. Right now, 0% financing, a $1,500 buyback, and a 15-year parts and labor warranty. Contact AAA Heating and Air today, 803-677-1500. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
Uneven sidewalks, pool decks, or patios? Canty can repair them for just a fraction of the cost of replacement. Call Canty Foundation Specialists today for your free estimate.
Canty can fix it.
Uneven concrete can be a dangerous tripping hazard leading to injury. Call the experts at Canty to permanently repair your sinking or cracked concrete. Call 753-1495 or visit CantyCanFixIt.com. Canty can fix it. Are you new to the job market and looking for great pay and a great atmosphere to work? Traditions Fine Jewelers had a record-breaking year last year. As a result, Traditions Fine Jewelers is looking for additional people to join their staff. Traditions Fine Jewelers is now adding sales associates to their jewelry and their collegiate staff, with management opportunities possible in the future. Traditions is also adding staff to their web department. Pay is $13 to $20 depending on experience, and Traditions hours are 10 to 6 Monday through Saturday. Traditions Fine Jewelers offers PTO and holiday pay as well as commission. Full and part-time slots available with signing bonuses of $500 to $1,500 being offered. Experience is preferred but not necessary. Come by 5134 Sunset Boulevard in Lexington, Sandhills in the Northeast, or call or text 803-622-4013 and set up an appointment. Come by Traditions Fine Jewelers today. Your new career could be waiting on you to take the first step.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 107.5 The Game.
A great selection of new Chevys is available now at Herndon Chevrolet. The lot is packed with inventory and more is on the way. So shop your hometown Chevy dealer today.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour.
Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks.
107.5 The Game.
Well, Bulldogs inbound with 2.1 seconds left, down by 6. McBride lets one fly, and that will do it. At long last, you can put spurs on this one. South Carolina wins at home in its final regular season contest. Their first SEC home win of the season. They defeat Georgia 61-55 to improve to 11-20, 4-14 in SEC play. Woo!
The final piece of the great weekend for Gamecock Athletics was that men's basketball win on Saturday over Georgia, 61-55 to wrap up the regular season, as you mentioned there. First conference win at home on the season. Now the team sets their sights to the SEC tournament where they get Ole Miss in the first round action on Wednesday. And from there, it's, see how far you can go and wrap up the season.
Was Derek all right there at the end?
I think some relief.
Yes.
Of some sort.
Yes. That, well, hey, man, I mean, the season has not been what anybody on the men's basketball side wanted it to be, I'm sure. But credit to them. Senior night, you always want to send your seniors out on a high note. Hayden Brown, I think, has really embraced his 1 year at South Carolina. Actually saw Hayden at the baseball game on Sunday supporting the baseball team. And it clearly has meant a lot to him to have this opportunity to play at South Carolina. So to end it in the regular season on a high note, they go into SEC tournament, short of a miracle run. The end of the season is near, but that is a very winnable game against Ole Miss to start this thing. I guess they're matched up with Tennessee after that. That has proven to be a tough matchup for South Carolina. But I mean, beating Georgia, winning your final home game, final regular season game, never a bad thing.
Speaking of Georgia, let me give you this. If you're looking for some type of glimmer of hope, and Wes, I think most people probably on the same page that it's not fair to expect that miracle run. That's what it would be, miracle run through the SEC tournament. South Carolina beat Georgia, as we documented, this weekend, and they were actually part of one of those such miracle runs back in the day. Dennis Felton, when he was their coach. Tyler, do you remember this?
I do remember that. 2008 when the tornado hit in Atlanta and they had to finish the tournament at Georgia Tech's Arena.
Crazy.
I know, wild weekend.
No word on if there'll be a tornado at the SEC tournament this time to, I don't know, maybe help South Carolina. But That Georgia team was, you could probably say, a little better, not a good team. They're 17-17 overall. They did have 4 conference wins. There's a couple more conference games now than there were back then, but they were 4-12, 11th in the SEC at the time, and then went on a run, won the SEC tournament, made the field of 64 automatically, of course, lost. They did not win, and then Dennis Felton was summarily dismissed the following season. But point is, it can happen.
Yeah.
You don't expect it to happen. And
Get
like you
hot
said,
at the right
Tyler,
time.
Yeah, get hot at the right time. A winnable game against Ole Miss, then you'll see where things go. Obviously, there's some teams in the league that South Carolina, they've lost more than they've won. And there's certainly some teams in this field that even if they can get past game one, they do not match up very well with based on what we've seen so far this season in the regular season.
Going back to Saturday's game against Georgia, if I would have told you going into this game they were going to be 2 of 14 from 3 and Michi Johnson was going to be 0 for 3, what would you have predicted the final score was going to be?
Not a win?
Yeah. An easy double-digit loss.
Yeah, no, I think everybody would agree with you on that, but they played a lot better inside the arc. Michi Johnson went to the free throw line 11 times. We're finally seeing some physicality down in the paint from him. It just kind of took him all season to get there, but you're starting to see some improvements there, and you get the win, and hopefully you win against Ole Miss in the SEC tournament and carry some kind of momentum into the offseason here.
Yeah, and then you gotta. I mean, Chris and I were just talking about it during the commercial break. You got to hit the transfer portal. Like that's I don't know if there's necessarily a ton of guys out there that Carolina's in the game with that you would call high school guys that are just instant impact that they can land. And right now you need multiple instant impact guys. I think if you're going to get this thing turned around. So for me, that is transfer portal. That is finding some guys who maybe are out there that are in-state, like former in-state or local, Carolina's guys that are maybe at a smaller school and doing well and going and trying to bring them back home, I think is the way you're going to have to go for this thing.
Real quick, let me take a minute, tell you guys about Amy Mason Cup State Farm. All across the country, drivers are reaping rewards, and it is safer driving plus those rewards with the updated Drive Safe and Save app from State Farm. Really cool app, interactive maps, driving tips, and you can save up to 30%, earn up to 30% by using those dynamic new features. Just download the Drive Safe and Save app from State Farm to get started, or even better, call or stop by your local State Farm agent's office, and they'll be happy to help you. It's exactly what they did for us over at Amy Mason Cup State Farm. South Carolina native, local agent. She and her team can give you a personalized quote to meet your needs and help you save on all sorts of policies. They're knowledgeable, they're responsive, they're very helpful, I can tell you. Home, auto, business, boat, renter's insurance, life insurance, all that good stuff. AmyMasonCup.com. That's MASINCUPP.com. AmyMasonCup.com. Their office is right up there off of I-26 on St. Andrews Road, 612 St. Andrews Road, Suite 4. Phone number is 803-772-5554. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
And going back to what you guys were saying about looking to the transfer portal this offseason, I think it's worth noting that now Coach Paris has an entire year of coaching in the SEC under his belt. And look, he's played against SEC teams before at Chattanooga. He's seen the Big Ten up close and personal during his time in Wisconsin. So he knows what good basketball looks like. But I think experiencing the SEC as a head coach for the first time really gives you insight on what kind of guys you need to bring in. And as much as everybody loves Hayden Brown, he's not maybe the quite same level of guy that you need on a consistent day in and day out basis to compete with some of the guys at the top of this conference. So certainly going to be interesting to see what he does in the transfer portal in this offseason.
Yeah, and I think it'd be interesting to see what guys stick around as well. I mean, it used to be, Chris, it was almost like to talk about guys who could transfer out or could move along was almost forbidden. Like you didn't want to speculate, oh, this guy could transfer, this guy could not be back, unless it was like a lottery pick situation like Gigi. Now, guys transfer and move around so much that it's just a valid question. Who's going to stay? Who's going to not? You have so much roster turnover and attrition from year to year. I think the thing to watch for South Carolina will not only be who can you bring in, but can you keep some of this core intact and sort of keep things, moving along with an actual, I don't know, foundation, I guess is the word. I mean, you've had, I think Michi Johnson getting to actually play this year. He didn't play a ton at Ohio State. Some of it was injury based, but he's come into his own. Jacoby Wright has obviously developed a ton. That you have a couple of guys you can maybe build around. And maybe some young guys who haven't played a ton this year either that will play a lot more moving forward. But you need to keep them intact and then just add talent around them, obviously.
Yeah, and you remember Ibrahim Adiba, who was, tore his ACL before he ever got to play a game for South Carolina as a transfer from Coastal. He's a guy that we haven't even seen. I think he came into this year as a senior, if I'm not mistaken. But if he can, get back from that and progress well, him, Jacoby Wright, Michi Johnson. You look at, there's a couple young guys that have shown some things here and there, right? Haven't played a huge role, but a Zachary Davis, Daniel Hankins Sanford, they've certainly gotten to play some. And Josh Gray is one of the guys on the roster that you'd really, there's maybe 3 guys on this roster or so that you can kind of see that development that's happened from where they started their career. And Josh Gray as a junior is one of those guys. But you kind of look in the portal or projecting forward into the portal and go, well, what do they need? And I think it's a very easy question to answer. It is everything, really. There's not anything you'd look at this roster, any one position and say, okay, they're totally set. Don't need to look for anything there, because even if you feel good about, say, Michi, or you feel good about, Jacoby Wright, if let's say you go into this season, into next season, thinking those two, if they stick around, are your starters, you're still going to need another guy. Maybe that's Steven, maybe it's somebody else. Even if you feel pretty good about Josh Gray, you need more than one adequate big man to play in the SEC. To your point, Tyler, they've been kind of outmanned, undersized, whatever it may be this year. So looking at the transfer portal, they need a little bit of everything, or a lot of everything when you look at this team.
Yeah, we'll certainly see how they fare on Wednesday coming up against Ole Miss and see where they go from there as far as the SEC tournament is concerned. That'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Talk a little bit about the NFL Combine and some Gamecocks out there coming up tomorrow. The halftime show with Jay and Terry coming up.